Howdy Earthlings, thanks to some of your requests, I decided to try to get into Toon's universe and got accepted immediately. Last night I streamed the game for about 6 hours, and here's my first impressions of the game. You could consider this a sort of review as I'm very critical in it, but keep in mind that the game is only playable by content creators and some giveaway winners, so it's way too early for a formalized review. I've opted to make this a little faster, so most of it is going to sound like a bulleted list. If I gave this the full review treatment, it'd be way too long, and as you can see, it's already 20 minutes. TU comes out in 2 weeks. If there aren't any major issues if you want to play it yourself, I wanted to get this video out in order to provide feedback to N and other staff. After this, I'll be doing guides on the characters so you can figure out who you want in advance. Keep in mind, this is meant to be a critical take. Anything negative I have to say isn't trash talk. I will go over this again in detail before I get into the negative section, just so people don't miss it. I'm not here to trash talk. I want the game to get better. Thanks again to the fans who suggested TU and to N and Kai for letting me try the game out early. Now, let's get started, because there's a lot to talk about. The positives. The game has incredible design, and the owner, N, and other staff have been very kind and patient with me. They responded to my criticism well, and want to make the game the best it can be, and so do I. This is already a good sign, even this early. Devs that don't listen to the player base are going to be very slow to fix very fixable issues. I love how every single character looks in this game. There isn't a bad design amongst any of the ones that I've seen. I'm especially fond of Nimbus. Who would have thought? The alien internet sheep likes the other sheep character. He's cute, he's silly, and his voice actor is very good. Also, yes, the game does have voice acting, and it does fit the characters very well, at least the ones that I've played with. Wetfels also has excellent design and voice acting that I think is going to be very popular with the furry community. In general, you're going to see a lot of art of Nimbus and Wetfels, and that's great because they're both starters. So because of the art, people will have a favorite before they even go into the game, like I did. The color palettes are very well chosen, they don't clash or hurt my eyes, and Infected look nothing like the original character, so it's very easy to tell your teammates apart. When making a game inspired by another game, it's very important to make yourself stand out as much as possible, and I believe in the art aspect, it succeeds greatly. As for gameplay, if all you wanted was another game that plays like Dandy's World, something to play between updates, it succeeds at that. There are some things it does differently though. There are up to 8 machines on the first floor, and more random events like blackouts where you have to interact with the fuse box, elevator breakdowns where you have to find fuses around the map, then use them to fix the elevator, and gas events where as time goes down, stamina comes back slower and slower. There are aspects of the game that changes up the gameplay quite a bit. I go into details in the critique portions of it. Next, I'm going to be going into the more critical portion. This is a mix of good and bad stuff. Keep in mind that everything I have to say from here out is criticism. I will admit some of it is very minor and nitpicky, but please understand that I am only being critical of the game. I am not here to trash talk. I'm not the kind of person who goes, this game bad. I'm the kind of person that goes, this game could do this better. And that's what this is supposed to be. This game can do this stuff better. I love a lot about the game, and my criticisms are here to make the game better, and has told me that they want me to make this video too. So yeah, I'm not here to dunk on a new unreleased game. I think a lot of people don't get that you can like something and still have problems with it. It's better that I like it and that I'm talking about the issues, because I want the game to get better. Control issues. There needs to be full controller support. I've already discussed this with N, and they're working with me to implement my layout. The layout is on screen. The game has no controller support aside from walking, running, and turning the camera. I've been a console gamer for over 2 decades now, so even on PC, I still use a controller. Many do. I think by not having controller support, you're ruining the initial momentum of the game. Without controller support, 1/3 of the audience won't be able to play. My proposed controller scheme is based on an Xbox-style controller. It would work on a PlayStation controller if you remember the orientation of the buttons. But on the screen, I have the positioning set up. A to do skill checks, which is your spacebar button normally, X for interact, which is usually E, Y for ability use, which is usually F, left trigger to sprint. Normally I'd say L3, but players have told me this hurts their thumbs, so we'll do L2. It's a perfectly fine button, and we have plenty of open space on the controller. The game doesn't use that many buttons actually. B should be to get off the machine. Currently there is no dedicated key to getting off of machines. This is why even with the controller mapping program, you can't get a fully functional control scheme out of the game. Right now, if you want to get off the machine, you have to mouse over and click it. This is bad for PC players too, as it's faster for there to be a dedicated key. Next, items should be left on D-pad for item 1, up for item 2, right for item 3. Then you can do L1 for the emote wheel, and left stick to select an option, or right stick to select an option. This leaves R1, R2, L3, R3, select, start, and down on D-pad all unmapped if they want to do something else with those buttons. Character abilities. The problem with basing your game on another game is you're likely to repeat some of the same issues that creator did. A lot of the character mechanics have a big Dandy's World problem. Dandy's World is afraid to let characters be powerful. Personally, one of my favorite aspects of Dolly's Factory is how powerful that game lets us be. When Overwatch first came out, one of the first fixes was to cut ability timers in half. They said people love loved using the abilities, so they wanted the players to be able to use them more. I think that's true in games like this too. Abilities need to not only be up at a decent pace, but fun to use. The worst case scenario of us being too powerful is floors are too quick. So what? I don't want to spend 2 to 3 hours just to get to floor 20. I got things I want to do, and not all of it is playing this game all day. Multiple hours just to get to floor 20 is going to bore some people. I really like that all of the characters have a passive and an active ability. One of the worst things about Dandy's World is the Toon hierarchy. Every character should be good in their own way. You've done a great job on this part, but this is a subtle thing that people might not notice. Your game has a way more fun aesthetic than Dandy's World, so you should lean into that with more powerful and fun to use abilities. I wish I got access to this game sooner, as this is going to be harder to make changes to after so many characters have already been made. My big issue with the abilities is I'm spending 24 hours of gameplay just to unlock some of these characters, and they have weak abilities. The way these abilities are described are also in need of some work. Selena's passive says see-through life forms. What does that mean? I can assume it means I can see enemies through walls like V, but if someone playing the game doesn't have the context of Dandy's World, they're not going to know that. I don't think I want to grind out money for 20 hours to get a character when I'm not entirely sure what she does. Some, like the frilled lizard, Fizzle, are also a bit puzzling. Toon's universe has a sanity mechanic that when the bar is empty, your stamina drains faster. This is an anti-distractor mechanic. Then you have Fizzle, who can see allies being chased by the infected, and an active that taunts and attracts the infected for 10 seconds, but with more stamina drain. Fizzle is a distractor. Do you want distractors or don't you? The problem with distracting in Dandy's World is that distracting is a side effect of design mistakes, design errors, flaws with the game. You need to decide if you're going to intentionally design distraction mechanics and make it more fun, or if you're going to make distracting not necessary in the first place. You could go down the route of making distracting intentional and more fun, but personally, I think distracting makes the game worse. When someone is off distracting, the whole game is just staring at skill checks, waiting for paint to dry. It also leads to the player base being incapable of playing without a distractor. This is why you get team wipes by floor 5 in Dandy's World, because everyone's become too reliant on distractors. They actually can't play the game as it normally plays. I like that you're making distracting harder to do. I don't get why a character is being designed to do distracting though. I foresee this being a problem when people pick this character thinking it'll make them a good distractor, and find out that in fact all it does is just swap aggro for a bit or potentially get them hit instead. Now, the Fizzle criticism should be taken with a grain of salt. I haven't played him yet. He could be perfect, but I have a suggestion. Copper has an ability that gives a shield to a teammate, making them immune to hits for 5 seconds. What if instead you got rid of Fizzle's taunt and gave them Copper's shield instead? Fizzle can already see infected chasing players. With Copper's shield, Fizzle could give the shield to protect them from a hit. That's way more interesting than distracting. I spent a good part of the last end of my stream talking about the abilities in the game. Frankly, I don't think any of the abilities are strong enough. Discard is just a better brush up, but barely. It still removes a player from the action to buff someone else. If a character is being removed from the game to buff another player, that player who is getting buffed should benefit so greatly that it's as if 2 players were doing the same thing. Also, discard is a no-no word in Roblox's filter. Maybe change his name to something that we can actually type. One of the starters has a big issue as well. Waffles is useless in solo play. Her ability is to give a waffle to another player and it boosts their speed. Since Waffle can only give waffles to players directly, forcing it into their inventory, it becomes annoying because my inventory is quickly full of waffles. But it also means that Waffle has no way to eat her own waffles. That means she can only use her passive, which is 10 seconds of increase to speed when picking up an item. This 7.5% bonus is so weak a passive, it's practically useless. An ability you don't have control over isn't very reliable. Why does she need to be able to move faster after picking up an item? Can we drop items and then she be able to pick it up and use that as a quick speed boost? There's no way to guarantee that there's an item on the ground in a place where Waffles would need it and benefit from it. But this effectively means that Waffles isn't a great character for solo, as she doesn't have any ability that works in solo. Character descriptions as well are just very robotic and lack the character and flair of the designs. They sound like a description you'd find on a player-maintained wiki. I guess my main point for this whole section is please make abilities more powerful and more interesting. As a game inspired by Dandy's World, you're not held back by the same limitations of Dandy's World itself, and you shouldn't enforce those restrictions on yourself. You have so much more freedom, and if you listen to player and creator feedback, you're giving yourself an advantage, as Dandy's World doesn't really do that as much as it should. Character unlocking. The rate at which you earn money, it took me 5.5 hours to get 1,000 money, and that's only enough for the cheapest character. Other players I've talked talked to have said similar, like Mr. Noob, who I played a few games with, said 2.2k over 10 hours. I was chatting with chat, so I understand if mine's a bit slower, but Noob confirmed with me that he isn't a content creator, and his gameplay was uninterrupted. That's not the worst part for me though. Some of the character unlock challenges are quite the ordeal. As an example of the most expensive character, Selena is not only the second most expensive at 4,100, but she also comes with some of the hardest challenges, which is why I call her the most expensive one, because she's actually much harder to unlock than the actual most expensive. Her first challenge is pick up 10 fuses. This is done during the breakdown event. It's a random event and you're not guaranteed to encounter one or get the fuses if others are more on top of things. The second challenge is to survive 15 blackouts, another RNG event. Use abilities 60 times, totally doable. Give 20 healing items to other players. This one is kind of RNG as well if you're playing with a team that's so good you might not get the opportunity to do this much. There's also a problem with the shop making this harder. Shops have limited quantities of items available. You can have a party of 10 and have a limit of 4 medkits available. If everyone else beats you to the medkits, then you can't progress on this challenge, making this less likely to happen. The last challenge for Selena is hack 50 computers, which is very easy. I've already almost done that. My point is that there's a heavy requirement of RNG in order to unlock some characters. This is fine for a character like Selena, who will take 20 hours to get the funds for in the first place. You'll definitely finish the challenges by then. But Teipo is a character who is just 700 money, and he has an RNG challenge of 3 gas floors. In 6 hours, I've encountered 1. In my opinion, I don't think a character this cheap should have an RNG-based challenge at all. This is just going to result in many players skipping over Teipo entirely. I think players should have 1 or 2 very easy to unlock characters at the beginning, aside from the starters. The starters could be the best characters in the whole game, and players would still want to ditch starters as soon as possible, because starters have a stigma associated with them. That stigma being that if you pick this character in a lobby, people are going to assume you're new, and they're going to leave the game. I do like that there are 2 starters for free, but still, Teipo shouldn't be RNG. This is a minor nitpick. I'm a pretty patient person, and I think Dandy's World gives Icar out at a fair pace, but only if you're good at the game. But I've had people tell me that Dandy's World is very slow to give it out. I'm just more patient than most people. But in TU, even if you do well, you're not getting that much cheddar. Skill checks. The skill checks function very similar to Dandy's World and Dolly's Factory. The extraction machines use a line-based one like normal machines in Dandy's World, which are fine. No issues. I even like how the speed and size of the check can vary. It keeps my attention better. But the computers use a check more like Dolly's, where it's a circle and the tick rotates around the screen, the needle, as I call it. The issue with this one is like the line. The position and size of the check zone changes, but so does the needle's speed. Should function the same, right? On paper, yeah. In practice, no. Sometimes a check zone will be close to where the needle starts. Since the speed varies, you have no way of knowing how fast the needle will be until it starts to move. There's just no way to know until it starts, and there's no way to anticipate how fast it will be. Either needles need to be the same speed every time on the circle checks, or check zones shouldn't be allowed to be in the first quarter of the circle. There just isn't enough time to react. Not if I want to get a perfect or a more accurate goal every time. Solo experience. Typically, I wouldn't play these kinds of games solo very much. As a YouTuber, I can fill a lobby in the blink of an eye, but since this is early access, there were less than 100 players on when I played. This meant a lot of solo time. I'd say the difficulty is very close to Dandy's World. It's harder than Dolly's Factory, but not exactly easy either. The challenge comes from some infected behaving very unlike what you would see anywhere else, and that's just awesome. Infected Squiddle at first glance may be just a twisted blot, but there is a key factor in the behavior that makes Squiddle a bit of a jerk. Squiddle's tentacles only pop up in doorways, major pathways, or certain hiding spots. Blots are kind of just random, while Squiddle requires you to completely change how you would path through stages, potentially zoning you into places that are, difficult to navigate or, hard to deal with chases. Another cool one is GNR's infected. They have holes in the ceiling, and if you see glowing eyes, you're not supposed to run under it, otherwise GNR will bite you. This honestly got me and jump scared me every time. I'm so used to not needing to look up. This is very smartly designed. I love this. I want to see more stuff like this. Also, there is Selena's infected, who works like Weeping Angels from Doctor Who. If your camera isn't pointed at her, she'll move. So this comes with a few ways to deal with it. In my case, it usually just results in me babysitting it while other people do the machines. I don't really care for that aspect of it because it does remove a player out of the game, but you can move with them, and they're not that fast. Selena's infected becomes more of a problem to deal with later on in the runs when more infected are present. But the issue with solo play is that the amount of machines you have to interact with is the same. So you have 4 mandatory ones at the start. Then a big machine appears and you have to do 1 to 4 more extra machines. Even in co-op, this shouldn't be a thing. It slows the game down greatly, and the game being slow is a big issue with it. It's slower than Dandy's World even. I like the idea of a big machine that everyone works on in the center, but it needs to be approached differently. In single player, the machine should scale down. It should should never be more than 4 machines for the entire floor on the first couple of floors. For co-op, you should change the final machine to be something more cooperative. What if the machine was a giant turnstile, like a boat's steering wheel, and all of the agents needed to push it? The more agents pushing it, the faster it goes. You could do a zone capturing mechanic too, where progress goes up faster the more players are in it, but if everyone leaves, it loses progress over time. Or if an infected comes into the zone, it pauses progress until it's gone. There isn't enough co-op in the co-op game, but I do give a lot more machine ideas in the final section. Bugs. This is the team's current priority, and why content fixes and stuff like that are probably going to be delayed, as it should be. I've seen some pretty bad stuff that makes runs end early. I've seen Mr. Noob fall through the floor and die more times than I can count. Bugs are to be expected, and I don't have an issue with them. Bugs happen. All you can do is try your best to fix them. The only ones I've encountered are falling through the floor and invisible walls in some locations preventing me from quickly hiding. Additional nitpicking. The name should be changed. There are multiple games named some combination of Toon Universe, or Toon's Universe, or Toon's Universe with an apostrophe. Tooniverse is already taken, and Toon in the title doesn't have much of a purpose here. All it does is draw comparisons between Dandy's World and TU. Instead, you should be trying to get as far away from that comparison as possible, as you are not going to win when it comes to comparisons between you and the much more popular game. My suggestion is something with agency in the name, since all the characters are agents. I personally don't know much about the lore, but I think Infected Agency or Infection Agency is probably a pretty good title. Having agency in the name is pretty cool as is, so even Toon Agency would work. If you have a better name than mine, suggest it in the comments. Machines should have a highlight. They all blend in very well with the map. It's easy to miss them at first. If you're going to make distracting harder, you need to give more tools to the players. Make them more powerful, like I went over in the abilities section, but also provide hiding spots or ways to interact with the infected. Stuns, slows, and stuff like that are an option, and some do have that, but there should be items that do it too. There should be something like pallets in Dead by Daylight or Dolly's Factory, but rather than forcing a bunch of pallets, which just mess up map design and don't fit, instead take advantage of the many doorways that are already in the stages. Push a button or something that shuts the doors for a few seconds. Also consider adding hiding spots like closets or lockers like they have in Pressure, Doors, and Twilight's Zone. Add some boss floors or challenge floors that change up the gameplay in a major way, something that breaks up the monotony of machines and skill checks. People don't like collecting train parts in Dolly's Factory, but they do love that it's not more machines. Consider something like Capture Zone style machines. You make a machine with a pad that you have to stand on for a little bit, then when it flashes red, get out of it or it makes an alarm sound. Maybe a generator you need to power up by following the various cords to flip a switch. I have a ton of machine ideas that you can just have, seriously. A machine with 4 squares you step in when they light up. You can make it work like Simon, or just press the ones that light up as they light up. A machine that makes you have an infected run through it, so players have to lead it through quickly. A race floor. You quickly run through the machines to light them up. You can lure this one up by saying it's a biometric scanner, proving that you're not infected by running through it, and the elevator will start working again. Last idea. Maybe a co-op machine where players all have to press and hold the switch at the same time, otherwise it doesn't get any progress, or it gets less progress the less players are holding the switch down. Emblems currently don't exist in the game, which is the game's trinkets or charm system from what I'm gathering based on the context that they're being used. Hopefully, TU doesn't have the same issues as Dandy's World where you have 2 good trinkets and everything else sucks. I also recommend you increase the trinket cap to 3, otherwise you'll develop a meta too fast and gameplay quality will stagnate. There is no research, which is great, but the way to unlock lore is by dying to the infected. This is going to result in public games where people play until they encounter one that they want to learn about and die on purpose. You might think that no one would do that, but I know a lot of players who only like Dandy's World for the lore. I think there are some people out there that would genuinely screw over another person's run just so that they could get the lore. There needs to be other ways for them to earn the lore. Characters don't have a way to show their stats if you own them already. Only the ones in shops have visible stats outside of elevators. Also, what the heck does this mean? This way of conveying info doesn't tell us anything. You might assume red is health, but someone told me that that isn't the case. The only way to view stats in a semi-comprehensible way is in the lobby elevator. It shows a stat breakdown, but what does the star and clock mean? Is one for computers and one for extractors? Some of the voice acting audio is a little bit tinny, like it was recorded in a can. Specifically, Weffels sounds a little bit off to me. This might seem like the nitpickiest of the bunch, but audio matters a lot. Like, you wouldn't watch my videos if my audio was bad.
Same is true for games. Bad audio gives headaches over time.
Same for lighting. The glowing objects in the game, its bloom is too high. Flickering in some stages could trigger epilepsy, so maybe the flashing should be softened a bit, maybe less frequent. And the shading flickers when you walk. Like I said, I told you some of these got real nitpicky. Last of all, the 5-star stat system in Dandy's World is terribly restrictive. I'll give you one quick example. A 3-heart system means each attack does a minimum of 1 health out of 3 damage. If you go by health points, you can do 30 health, and now you have a lot of variety for balancing, and it lets you do interesting attack styles that you couldn't do before. Scraps and goop can be devastating at times in a 3-heart game. A ranged character doing a third or half of your health really sucks. But 30 HP, regular hits doing 10, and ranged characters doing 1 to 3, now you have choices. A rapid-fire, low-damage attacker like them, like in Dolly's Factory, or a slower, higher-damage ranged attacker doing 5, like Scraps, but it isn't as punishing, because now it's not a third or half of your health. By following the 5-star and 3-heart system, you're shooting yourself in the foot creatively. I feel like I got everything, but I know I'm going to post this and still end up leaving some stuff in the comments later. It's just that right now, there isn't anything mechanically or gameplay different enough that stands out from Dandy's World. If I was a Dandy's World fan and I saw or played this, I wouldn't leave Dandy's World for this. Your art stands out greatly, but your gameplay isn't different enough from Dandy's that fans would try it long term. I know this because even with as great as Dolly's is, I got tons of comments from DW fans saying that they wouldn't ever try it, or they only tried it because I recommended it. The design and aesthetics are truly some top tier stuff in this game. Voice acting puts you so far ahead. I lost my mind when I heard voice acting in Dolly's Factory just last week, and now you've got fully voice acted characters for everybody? That's awesome. Unbelievable. But this is a game first, and the game isn't different enough that people would choose it over something else. Considering you're releasing a few days after the Dandy's World Easter event, I think release is going to be a bit of an uphill battle. Like I said though, I like this game. That's why I'm being so critical of it. I want it to get better. I just think currently your inspiration is betraying you. Dandy's World doesn't play great. It's a lore and character delivery vehicle. It's more of an art project than it is a game. You don't need to restrict yourself to the box Dandy's World made for itself. That's all I have for you. I'm excited to see where the game goes. There's a lot of potential here. I'm very excited for the leveling system in particular. And hey, if you decide to do fan-made characters, I'm so full of ideas. Last thing though, like I said with the Twilight Zone video that I ended up taking down, the important thing here is that you made something. You succeeded at making something. That puts you so far above so many people. That puts you into the top 1%, because 99% of people will never start the project they talk about, and 99% of that 1% will never finish the project. You put yourself in just a class of your own by just releasing the game, and you should be proud of yourselves for that. It is a good game. That's it. It's a good game. Thanks for watching, and thanks to supporters on Patreon and members on YouTube like Freya Games, Gezro, Am, Nebazit, Esperant Artist, Paper, Faye Penguin, Momentary Unicorn, Nat, Marius, Yini, Worm Syrup, Rask, Beef, Colorado Blue, Vaderson, Linky, Eddie14, The Ace of Raccoons, Blackjack, Rask again, Willie Pete, TG Dante, Linky again, Astro Pixie YT, and Malding Brick. I'll see y'all later. I gotta go ask Nimbus who his stylist is. Whatever it is, he's just got it going on. Bye.